How can we get more females involved in the technology space?
Making sure that there's that exposure. That's the biggest piece. It's a programming kit, so I'm going to make it pink and then it's going to appeal to girls.
Hello and welcome to Sengii Talks, the show that brings great ideas and the people that have them together. I'm your host, Caleb Kinchler, and joining me now today for this episode is Misty Garrick. She is the Manager of Digital Strategies for the Minnesota Society of CPAs. Misty, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
So how long have you been part of the organization?
I have been at the MNCPA for 17 years. So
wow, 17
quite
years.
A while.
Okay. Has it been in different roles?
It has. I largely started out as a programmer on the website, and I've taken on more of a strategic focus and implementing larger digital projects. I just implemented or led the implementation of our new AMS. So I'm now in charge of the database piece as well.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, we're going to go into that a little bit later too. I want to know more about the net forms, what you're working on, because that sounds really exciting. But here's a question. So you've been there for 17 years. Now, when you think about, CPAs, there tends to be a large misconception about what CPAs, what they do. There's a lot of memes out there, all kinds of crazy things. So is there one misconception that you might have heard most, or maybe one that you might have had prior to joining the organization?
I think one thing that surprises me or might surprise others, obviously we have CPAs who are on our board, and they have not been necessarily penny pinchers with us. Not to say, they're just handing out money left and right, but if we come with a good business case, they're not ones to say, well, I don't know if we should spend that much. When we went to them with our AMS proposal, they actually gave us more money than we requested because essentially they said, we've all been through these types of IT projects. They tend to go over budget. It's not a reflection on you. We've all been through them in our business. So here's some extra money so you don't have to come back later and ask us again.
So they're all willing to give money. They're not penny pinchers, and basically, as long as you have a good idea, your numbers are solid, and the product is solid, they will help you out with what you're
right. And that is their role as business advisors. If you come with that good business case, then they're going to do what they can to support you, and that's what they do for their clients, for their organizations.
Okay. Now, I know that you're a bit more on the technical side of things, but can you give us like a broad picture about what does the Minnesota Society of CPAs, what do they do on a daily basis?
So on a daily basis, we're out to serve our members. We serve our membership is about 8,000 CPAs in Minnesota. One of the largest areas of what we do on a day-to-day basis is continuing education, or CPE. For those CPAs, they have a requirement to take a certain amount of educational classes every few years. We're also really trying to help them build their careers and build connections with their colleagues. So especially like in quarantine, it's given us some new opportunities. A lot of our members are in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, but then we also have members outside of in greater Minnesota. So we've had more webinars and programs that they can attend, so the greater Minnesota members can attend the programs. So we're trying to connect members on a daily basis, or not necessarily a daily basis, but on a regular basis.
Okay. Now, with obviously with COVID, every organization has really had to make some adjustments. What kind of adjustments have you all had to make, or if any, in terms of with your role?
It has definitely been a period of adjustment for staff internally. I would say working from home, huge difference. I think we had for years we've been talking about a pandemic plan. It became a disaster plan. We were doing tests of if we had 20 employees working remotely, could our systems handle it? So from the technological side, I feel it's been as smooth as it could be. I don't think there were huge issues with the technology, and I think we were comfortable with it. I feel like that part went surprisingly well. On the member-facing side, we had to cancel all our seminars, so that was huge. But we did start doing more virtual education, and one of the biggest things we did was take a conference that typically has an attendance of 800 and move that to an online platform. So it was a lot of stress. I mean, trying to take that big of an event and completely change the format and how we do it. But I think, it went as well as we could have hoped. I feel like we were able to turn on a dime, find a provider for an app and a platform to host the event, change the marketing, figure out how we wanted to sell it in our AMS. It all came together really well. And I can say that as being outside of the project and just watching from afar. I'm sure it was not as fun as it looked from the outside. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And it's been interesting how a lot of organizations have had to do that pivot in terms of, particularly with, if you're doing a lot of in-person conferences, but then you'd be able to, okay, let's make it a digital conference. Are there any projects that you've just been a part of, you felt like have just been really significant?
Yeah. So the two that I can think of, the latest one was we went from a custom built AMS that many state CPA societies were using to more of an off-the-shelf system, which is NetForum, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with.
Okay.
So I was the project lead on that. We worked with a consultant who kind of, took the reins, but I did the project management day to day and a lot of the business analysis piece of looking, here's all the functionality we have in the old system. Here's how the new system works. What are we taking over? What are we leaving behind? And how are we changing our processes so that we can work with the new AMS and not against it?
Okay. So just for the people who actually might not know, can you kind of explain a little bit about what, the AMS is and also how it works with the net forums?
Sure. So basically what an AMS is, it's an association management system. What I think it would be closest to in non-association organizations is a CRM. It's where we're including information about our members, contact information, what have they done with us, what have we sent to them, those sorts of things. There's a lot of other functionality on top of it. For us personally, it's events. We have, in a typical year, we offer about 250 in-person events and thousands of webinars. So it has all of those tools. We also manage how credits are awarded to attendees for taking those programs with us. So it's basically all of the data we have about our customers is going through that system.
So have you always been involved in marketing technology?
Pretty much. Out of college, I had one other job. It was working for a marketing and publicity firm, agency. And so I did website development. I did programming design. I also did a little bit of print design. So that's where I came from. And then I moved into this role at the MNCPA.
Okay. What is it about marketing that really makes you interested in being a part of that?
What I like about the space that I'm in is the creativity. I feel like with websites specifically, there's the design piece. There's how you organize content, how you think about that. There's the data piece of it and you've all of these insights that you're able to look at and sift through, same with the database, and figure out, I know this is what customers are doing. What can I build on? What can I do to facilitate a better experience?
Okay. That's a great answer, by the way. So
Not like my other ones. No.
yeah, no, they're all great. They're all great so far. So with that in mind, obviously, in over the past really a few years, we've really seen a large push for women in technology, which I think is very important and very necessary. Um, as a woman who's been in technology for a very long time, have you experienced any type of challenges or seen anything that you had to work through?
I think the biggest issue I've faced or felt was being in that room where there's maybe one or two other women, whether it's at a conference. My background, I'm a math and computer science major. I was at a small school, but I was the only woman in my year in my program.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's just that not quite feeling like I'm different. I stand out. And in some ways that's really cool, like people want to talk to you, but at the same time, it does make you feel a little bit like I'm outside my element here.
Well, so with that in mind, in your opinion, how can we get more females involved in the technology space?
I think it really starts with what kids are doing at home. I mean, for me personally, I got a computer when I think I was in first grade, and I was really excited. And that was a big deal back in 1985. I started playing around with websites in 1993, and I think it's making sure that there's that exposure. That's the biggest piece. I think it's also finding things that appeal to everyone. It's a programming kit, so I'm going to make it pink, and then it's going to appeal to girls. In general, women like to work more collaboratively, whereas I felt like, especially in my college classes, it was very much about that one guy who can build the biggest thing and do the best thing all on his own. He's sitting in his room at night. So it's kind of like, how do you draw people into a process versus it being just a standalone, this is what I do on my own and I'm really good at it. I don't know, does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense. I think, particularly in the area of exposure, I think is big. I like how you touched on that as well. I read something that said exposure creates an appetite for something that you didn't know existed.
Right.
So I think, not just saying, hey, here's a device, it's pink, and like but no, like let's really talk about the importance of it. I think even showing other people as well. And I think,
Right.
looking at Google, a lot of Google's executive team are female, which I think is excellent. The movement of girls who code, all those different things are just very cool. And I think, you're saying, showing that exposure will create the appetite for more the young girls to get involved in this tech space.
Yeah, and even, one thing that comes to my mind is my boyfriend's daughter just turned 11, and one of the things that have drawn her in is just Minecraft. So she's just learned, this is how I do things. This is what I need to do to change this. It's things like as basic as learning all the computer menu systems to things like she couldn't get on the right server, and she just searched for something and was able to connect. And so it's not, oh, there's this box and I'm going to do computer things on it. It's, I have this game. I know what I want to do to improve at it or to have a better experience. And that's what's driving it. It's less about the technology itself and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. That was great. So you mentioned the net forums. How have you been able to integrate Sengii into that in any way?
So we've done an initial integration. So we can hook up, we have certain committees that are in our NetForum AMS system, and we have different mailing lists so people can sign up for if they have an interest in individual tax or they're part of business and industry, things like that. So where we haven't invested a lot of time is making sure that data is going back into the AMS, like really looking at how we're connecting activity in our community back to what are we promoting to members? What are ways to draw additional engagement?
So from a technical standpoint, that's really your area of expertise. What was it like before MNCPA was using Sengii to now using the Sengii Connect tool, just the different areas of that?
It's been so helpful. Where we were coming from, I basically found a piece of software. It was off the shelf. I got the code, I dumped it in, I customized it, which was great. I got it up and running. And then it's code that sat there for a long time. And then we went to upgrade. It was just a fiasco. It was all customized. It was on me. And it was one of those things where I wasn't in it enough to really get good at it and understand how it worked and just keep up to date with it. And that was partially on me for not admitting where this probably isn't a good fit for what I'm doing. So it was so nice to go to what Nick and Sengii had built and have their team be responsible for all of that. And plus, they know the system really well. So I've definitely seen where they've taken what we had in the old system, or, they've added additional features.
So you said you just found the software. Why go with Sengii opposed to a different piece of software?
Sengii had exactly what we needed. I feel like other systems had a lot of bells and whistles that I don't think our members would have used, but we still would have had to pay for. So Sengii was in that sweet spot of the things we needed, a really good UI, great customer support, without being at that next tier of price, and also not being, the $700 software I found on the internet.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So now this is the advice section. Love this section. Looking back, so hindsight, they say is always 20/20. So over the span of your career, what's something that you wish that you had known earlier on that you could maybe go back and if you could go back and tell yourself, shoot yourself an email, what would it say?
I would say it's okay to fail early and often. I was always one of those kids, got straight A's, did really well, gotten into a good college. So I don't know that I necessarily prepared myself for, there are things that I'm just not going to be able to do well the first time I do them. And especially with bigger projects. One of the first really, really big projects I worked on was we're taking our existing website, porting it from ASP to ASP.NET, so different programming language, changing a CMS, changing a design, all of those things. And it was so much bigger than anything I had worked on. And it just, it was so stressful, and not necessarily because my boss was mad about it or, I just was so hard on myself. So knowing that it's okay to ask for help, it's okay not to do it right the first time, and then also to admit where you're struggling. It's not, you're not weak, you're not stupid. You just need to say, you know what, I don't know how to do this well and I need help. And making sure you find those resources of people who can help you.
Wow, that's good. That's good. That's
Okay.
That's good. Because I think we have this. I think society, we have this fear of failure. Because
Yes.
because I think there's such a negative connotation associated with failure. But really, the truth is, the more you fail, the faster you're able to learn how to be successful.
Right. And I think even going back to what you're doing as a kid, like I wasn't really involved in competitive sports. I'm a nerd. Who would have thought? But things like that where you don't win all the time. You have to rely on other people, and they don't always do things the way you would want to do it. It's that exposure piece. Are you being exposed to situations that challenge you, that you have to deal with just any kind of adversity? Again, I bring up my boyfriend and his daughters, and Obviously, it's a very challenging time for children right now, but there's definitely things that they can learn from that. Is life isn't always fair. We do our very best, and it doesn't turn out the way we would like to. So how do you process that emotionally? How do you not give up? How do you figure out, okay, I wanted to be here, I'm here. How do I get to the final destination I was looking for?
Absolutely. So if people want to get more information or be involved, whether from a member standpoint or their CPA, what do they do? How can I get more information?
Sure. I would definitely, being the webmaster, encourage them to go to mncpa.org. You can definitely learn about membership for people who aren't CPAs or in the accounting field. We have resources for the public. You can figure out if you happen to be in Minnesota and would like to find a CPA, we have a referral service. We have information on doing your taxes. And two, if it's something more where you're interested in Sengii, or you're interested in what we did with our AMS, or you're implementing a large technology project and you have questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Excellent. And we'll also, those who are listening on the podcast, we'll have links on the website to everything that Misty has just mentioned. That way you can get in contact with her, get in contact with the organization as well. Misty Garrick, Manager of Digital Strategies for the Minnesota Society of CPAs. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time.